All right, welcome back to More Dead Stuff. Today's topic is one of the darkest survival discussions out there, cannibalism. My guess, it's one of their favorite topics of all time, they told me. So, why do people resort to it? What happens to the brain and body in extreme starvation? And most importantly, could you do it if you had no other choice? And that's what we're talking about today with Dana and Scarlett, my guests. We're going to break it down from scientific, historical, and psychological angles and all that kind of good stuff. So Dana, she's got a great channel. Scarlett's got a great channel. I'll link to it all down in the description. They've got a lot of great interest in different shows and topics and things as well. I think all of you guys would get into it, so definitely check all of that out. We talk Severance and Yellowjackets over there, and probably be talking other stuff on both channels in the future, so definitely check those guys out. How are you guys doing today?
It's really good. I'm ready to go shopping for some body parts like Jackie was doing.
That's just crazy.
Ready to dive in.
It's crazy. We watch shows that are actually discussing that right now. I mean, The Walking Dead is, of course, my big thing, and they have addressed that a few times, I guess, on The Walking Dead. And it's something, in an apocalypse, I guess you'd want to do. But in Yellowjackets, the show where they had a plane crash, a soccer team and a group of girls have resorted to eating people. And sometimes it's not even, they had other options on the menu.
Right. They did. And that's a whole nother kind of crazy aspect of cannibalism with like Yellowjackets in particular, right? They go down a unique and interesting kind of path when we're talking about all the different things that involve cannibalism and how you get there and survival. Theirs is very complex because they add so many different layers into that show that you kind of see how people break down.
Right. You kind of at least try to explain it or make an excuse for it. Like, well, could happen. I mean, it has happened in real life. We'll touch on it a little bit in the video. We'll start with cannibalism in nature. So let's look at, before we get to the human stuff, talk about common cannibalism actually in the animal kingdoms, because a lot of these species do that as part of their survival strategy. So, for example, we know about the black widow. It eats her mate after reproduction. That's probably a big favorite of you guys. But did you know sharks, hamsters, and even chimpanzee have been observed eating their own kind? And so I've even seen, like, when my dad had a farm and he raised some swine, hogs at one point. Mm-hmm. I've even seen that it happened with them. The mother.
Is it called backfill or something like that? They feed the pigs some of their own parts that are left over with other food. You're supposed to do it in a certain amount. Otherwise, they do actually go a little crazy or get aggressive.
I've seen them eat their young. They just had the babies and they turn around and before you know it, they're going to eat them if you don't, sometimes you got to watch it. So it happens in nature for sure. But you heard, I said chimpanzees, and that's one of our close, you'd think, relatives and all that kind of stuff. So, what it all comes down to, you could almost say it's in nature. So it doesn't mean it's okay, but hey, it happens, right? It happens.
Right. And I guess it's how you look at it with nature, right? Because even some of the examples that you showed, like if you really break it down, like insects, you can even have like, I think praying mantis, right? I believe they eat their spouse as well. And it's, when you talk about different animals, the more complex the animal is, I want to say, or organism, I would say the higher the risk of cannibalism causing more problems.
Right. I can see that.
So that's why, like, I don't see aggression, like, when I say aggression, like extra aggression, after, say, a praying mantis or a black widow eat their spouse, right? They still have the same temperament throughout. They're the same aggression regardless. But, like, when you talked about the pigs, well, their aggression actually increases to a point that's not quite the same, right? Like, it's totally different, but then you're talking about a more complex organism, a more complex brain, all these different things that go into biology, physics, and everything about the organism itself or the species. So it's really interesting as you go up sort of the animal kingdom and we get up to like complex organisms such as ourselves and how that affects our bodies, our minds, and stuff like that if we ever did resort to that, aspect of nature.
Yeah, yeah. That's the thing, when you add stress and starvation and stuff in the equation, it changes things. And I mean, just any little thing could change so much about survival if that's what you're in. But, like praying mantis type thing, I guess that's survival, but maybe there was something else to eat, over here or something. I'm just glad,
And
Well,
you gotta look at why. Why
humans
is
aren't like that.
nature that they
yeah.
have, like, the insects have it in them to eat the spouse? Because it's particular, right? They're not just eating their own kind, they're eating their spouse after
Yeah.
doing the thing.
Reproduction. Yeah.
So it's
Well,
it's an even more interesting version of
instinct.
cannibalism.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's also instinct in a way too, because I've heard that even, let's say, when it comes to bears, bears have been known to eat their cubs if they are starving themselves, because to the bear they can have another cub,
Right.
but how if they don't survive, it's almost like a survival instinct itself.
Yeah. If they
So
die,
when it
the
comes
cub
to
could die anyway.
exactly, so in the animal kingdom, it's also based off survival as well in certain situations.
Yeah, for sure. Especially if it's a starvation situation, that just changes everything. So, the science of starvation, let's say you're stranded with no food, stuff like Scarlett was even touching on, and we talked about a little bit, is stuff starts happening to your body and your mind. And so your body will start burning fat reserves and then your muscle, and everything starts shutting down non-essential functions and stuff. So that's rational thinking included. And I think if we look at the show Yellowjackets, that's really affected their rational thinking in a lot of different kind of ways, because their diets changed, the stress of different things, not just the plane crash and seeing their friends dead, but one of them had his leg crushed and they had to cut it off. And, it's all just split second decisions there for a while,
Right.
and
What about
crazy
Shauna?
stuff.
I mean, her having,
The
the
baby.
baby, that
Yeah.
was I imagine that was a fully traumatic situation. Even for Coach, it was
Yeah.
traumatic for him.
He couldn't deal with it. He walked away, and that's stuff that happened even a little bit later. From the plane crash all the way pretty much up to that point, just crazy stuff was happening. So, it depends. You might just be lost for 3 days, or you might be lost for 2 years or something like them. So it's a big difference in time, the time frame and stuff like that. But it does mess with you and most people, and hopefully most people will never have to experience it. But if you do go without food, it's not easy. It's not easy. You could last a few days, but it's hard to go. By day 2, you're hungry,
Right?
Yeah.
And then once you really get into it, right, you were talking about sort of the breakdown. I mean, even the vitamin deficiencies, right? You start losing that calcium, the vitamin C, the B12 and stuff like that. You're losing your energy, your teeth are gonna start having problems. I mean, there's just all kinds of things, and it happens real quick, especially with hydration. Like, to me, that's the number 1 most important, and you will probably mess that up the most if you're out in the wild. Because if you don't know how to filter the water or try to, boil it out to make it clean, you're just gonna completely deteriorate yourself even further quicker.
Yep. Yep. Hurt yourself probably more than help in the long run.
Mhm. It's wild to think about, like, because I mean, I don't know how many people out there I love to watch some of the survival shows and all the different ones, the funny ones that, are kind of a little bit more like, "Okay, yeah, is that real?" Even to the ones that are seemingly more real, they're just kinda showing you what it's like if you were in this part of the country or in this kind of, like, wilderness type situation, and real quick, they'll show you how fast you will mess up outside in the wilderness. Right there in nature, you will find something that is edible, and right next to it, something that is poisonous and it'll kill you.
Yeah.
And if you don't know the difference and you mess up that leaf by just a little bit, you think you're eating a dandelion, but I can't think of a poisonous plant off the
All
top of
right.
my head that's like a dandelion, but you know what I'm saying? Then you're messed up. The berries, particularly. People go looking at berries, and just because the birds are eating them doesn't mean you can eat them, because the birds can eat stuff you can't. So you gotta be real careful out there.
Right.
It's quick.
And, I wonder, I guess we don't have any professional cannibals except like Hannibal Lecter, those kind of people. I guess there's some in the world, but, I wonder how much research they put into eating human flesh. I guess you'd have to kind of look into it a little bit.
Well, there was something I saw, and God, I hate that I cannot remember it right now, but I want to say a tribe in the world that still
Yes.
is involved in cannibalism, and this reporter went there to kind of ask him questions. Of course, they were wearing the necklace of body parts, and they wanted to place it on him, and he was kind of cool with it, but at one point, they were getting ready to eat him. He had to leave. I don't know what he said, and he don't even really understand what he said, but they were not they just did not appreciate his presence at some point, and it was very clear he needed to leave. So it's still practiced in the world, but it's creepy to think about at this point in time when if it's not out of survival, right? If
Right.
it's more of like a social practice or religion or something like that, it takes away from the fact that you're doing it just for survival, which you can if it's survival, you can kind of at least justify it. But after that, then I don't know, man. That's a little creepy in my opinion, but to each their own.
Yeah.
Well, yes, I quickly did a search and it said, while there are no widespread ongoing practices of cannibalism by any major tribes today, some isolated groups in New Guinea, like the Koroway tribe, have been reported to have engaged in ritual cannibalism in the past. And some reports suggest that certain clans may still perpetuate the myth to encourage tourism.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't know why people would want to go see that.
let's go tour let's go tour the cannibal people,
But I don't know. You might not come home. You might be on the menu. So I don't know why that would be interesting.
You're
but
really overweight, brother. Bob wants to go. No, Bob, you can't go on this trip.
right? You're gonna be they're gonna look at you and be like, oh, we
They'll
can
be
be good for a couple weeks.
Their mouths will be drooling and shit.
Oh,
Yeah, that's just wrong.
that is so wrong.
But I can definitely see it. I mean, it's hard to see, but I could see it more in a ritual aspect than just doing it for fun.
Survival.
And it's hard to see it doing it for survival. I can't see it like a Hannibal Lecter thing at all. But survival, I could, that's kind of more what we're talking about, I think. And I don't know if you guys have ever researched the Donner Party. It was in 1846, and I don't have a lot of details here, and I won't get into it because it's actually a long story because it plays out over time, right? Of these people that got stranded in a brutal winter up in the Sierra Nevada mountains. And, 1846, so it's horses and wagons time, and stuff like that. And so it really shows you that it depends on who you're trapped with, how shit goes, because they were just trapped with some wrong people that didn't care to kill. Like, yeah, I don't care. Bang. Let's eat that dude. And that guy's half Indian. So if anybody's got to go, it's going to be him next, And so it's just, some of it was, nobody went to jail over it or anything when the few survivors did get rescued, but some of them should have, because of the way they did stuff. So it was kind of brutal in a lot of aspects. So they were starving though, and they did eat people. And that's the big question of, I guess, of the whole video is, it's so hard to put yourself in a survival mode where you think you're hungry enough to eat your friend or even a stranger. I mean, I won't say anything about religions or anything, but the only time I've ever went without food is this religious person challenged me one time to, I guess he called it fasting. I don't know if it was exactly what I was doing, but it was hard. I went a whole day, just one day, and it was hard.
Yeah.
Actually, so I didn't enjoy it at all. So, if I had to go a week, That would suck. That would suck. But would I eat my friend? I don't know, man. I
You're
don't
right.
know.
Well, I think we've all had that feeling. We've all experienced the feeling of when maybe you've been so busy all day, you haven't eaten something, and it's the end of the day and you feel like, "Oh, I'm starving."
Hmm.
But it's like, imagine if you're put in a situation to where it was like the girls in Yellow Jacket, to where it's a winter, there's nothing around you, and here comes your friend who just died. You think that, you're cremating her, and to them, they smell barbecue. And it's like almost their instincts of the hunger took over to feed themselves. So it's like when you're in that situation of real honest starvation, the lines are blurred to what you would do.
Yeah, and I think, in that situation too, like the Yellow Jackets, they, I don't know if you call them city girls or just suburb girls, or they didn't seem like they come from a farmer lifestyle, where they grew up, their dad was a hunter and took them hunting too, and, that kind of thing.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
I have to question myself because I'm more of a hunter. I mean, I'm not a hunter, but my dad taught me to hunt. I know how to do it and all that kind of stuff.
Same.
So it's like there's so many other choices to me with the knowledge I have anyway to eat something else. So if I was in that situation where my friend got barbecued and I could smell it and all the other people in the group went over and started chowing down, I don't know. I just don't. I would have to be so damn hungry and just out of my mind.
Right.
Like we were talking
Yeah.
about, it
Yeah, I would have
rewires
to
your
be
brain.
delusional. I would have to be delusional to the point that at that point, it's gone past me even being able to function normally throughout the day. Like, I wouldn't I think I would just completely be gibbering all day. Like, there would when your brain function gets to the point, like, your speech is messed up, you're honestly just almost like a zombie. So, that would be the point to where maybe I would eat something because then I wouldn't even it'd be kinda like Ty, in Yellow Jackets when she was kinda sleepwalking. She didn't really know what the hell she was doing.
Yeah, and you definitely would probably get into that state of mind. And another thing, which I don't know if it matters, it doesn't seem like it would matter to me in my decision in doing something like that. But if you were out in the wilderness, like a plane crash type thing, and there's only a few of you, and one person dies, and you guys decide to eat on them or something, that's a more isolated thing where there's, I don't know, it's like we could keep it secret if we wanted to or something.
I mean, like
Um,
you're saying something happened to them, nobody intentionally did anything. It was,
right. Yeah.
I don't know, I don't even know how they, departed, but from no means of the group.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. They froze to death or
Yeah,
died in
like,
the plane
exactly.
crash. Yeah. Something. But that happened with the Andes flight disaster. It was in 1972, so we had the capability of searching pretty decently at that point. Back in 1876, they didn't have a good way to go search for people, so that hindered. Some people knew they were missing and stuff back then, but it was harder to go search for them. But
Mhm.
they didn't find them for a long time in this plane crash, and they ended up, because they went days without food, eating part of their friend. And so
Mhm.
that made a movie. There was a movie about it and stuff.
Yes.
It's just, would they have died if they hadn't have eaten him? Could they have made
Mhm.
it until rescue? I mean, I don't know. I personally, I guess if I knew those people, I wouldn't really think that much less of them or anything because of the decision they made.
Mhm.
If I knew them personally, but I don't know if I could have done it. You know,
Right.
You I don't I agree. I don't think I'd look down on somebody who was in that situation because until you're in it, you really don't know. But then we get to something like the hunters in The Walking Dead. And the whole premise that you had this group of adults who in that apocalyptic situation chose to eat their children, and not children that were already dead. They killed their children and ate them to survive, and then proceeded to hunt other humans to survive. Now we've all seen The Walking Dead. I know Scarlett, I've sent you some clips about the hunters and stuff, but it's like even Rick's group was able to salvage for food at certain points. Like whether it be canned goods, other stuff. Like what would bring you to that?
It's got,
That's a dark situation. And
yeah,
I don't think that is a situation I could understand in any means.
right.
Like
Even,
they actually made the decision to eat their kids.
right. And even if you said trauma, like in that was the hunters were in the comic side of The Walking Dead. And then the show, we had Terminus, then they ate people. So in both situations, you could say it was trauma that caused that, a psychological thing. But to me, the comic version of the hunters was just crazy, like a governor or somebody character like that, just straight up crazy. Had to be to kill your own kids and stuff, and
Hmm.
that's just an insanity. That's a mental
Right.
a mental problem. But
And that feels like a
in
society cult like mentality though, right? Like
yeah,
I'm assuming that's how that would work.
yeah,
At some point,
in
whoever led it, they kind of they just decided like, okay, that's
to
how we're
go.
gonna do things.
Yeah, and that's kind of the Donner Party. You could look at some of the things that happened like that. One guy kind of said, "Let's do this," and they're like, "Well,
Right,
gotta,
look, it's kinda like that in Yellowjackets, right? We
yeah."
talked about
So
the power structure, in Yellowjackets and who gets to make those calls. And
yeah,
yeah, it's crazy how the crazy people seem to be the leaders in all of
right.
these
And
situations.
you've got the thing about Terminus, which is the TV show side of that, where they ate people, cannibalism, and the TV show explained it in such a way that these people were trying to help people in the beginning, this group, and they were good. They were bringing people in saying, "Hey, let's help you. Let's work together and I'll feed you. Come on in to our community." But then a bad group came in and raped the women, beat the men, and was just killing people, raping the women again, just went in turns. And it was really bad. It was very traumatic. And so when they finally broke out of there, they started eating people and they justified it because, well, we can't let people in anymore because what they did to us. And so we're going to get back at the world by just surviving. And we'll survive because we'll put up signs that says, "Hey, come to us for safety." We'll still leave up our signs that we had, "Come to safety, but when you get here, we're going to barbecue you."
Right. And
So
so, like you said,
that's
from that
crazy too.
yeah, it explains a little psychology behind at least decision making.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
It
that's
just goes
interesting.
to show the different type of situations that we've seen in cinema, let's say, of different groups being put in different situations. The end result is still the same. They ate someone, but the situations vary on to the why and what they did to get there. And so what's the level? Like what's an acceptable level to where you'd be like, "Okay, I understand that you had to do that to survive," to, "Oh my god, I can't believe you did that." They
Hmm.
still all did the same thing in the end, but the situation is just so different between them.
Hmm. Yeah, and I mean, I guess both of them is a mental thing. It gets to a mental thing, not necessarily a survival thing, because really in both the hunters and the Terminus situation, they did have other options if they just pursued those options.
Exactly.
Even though
But
it's
to
an
where Yellow
apocalypse.
Jackets Yeah, Yellow Jackets, it almost seems like they didn't. Those girls, like you said, they didn't have fathers who, took them out, showed them the wilderness, taught them to somewhat survive and, you know, forage and anything like that. They were literally at that point to where they need to survive, they consumed their friend.
Yeah. And like we're saying, you get to a mental state where you're not really thinking about it like you would normally, and maybe not at all. Just, hey, there's some meat and it smells good and I'm putting it in my mouth.
Right?
Right, and we even see it in Yellow Jackets, the
Mhm.
hallucination that they kinda went through when they were consuming Jackie. It's almost like they put up this, image to themselves to conceal what they were actually doing. we saw them what looked to be like at a feast to where they were enjoying themselves, having fun, to almost cover the mental aspect of what they were doing.
Yeah. And I almost think I would probably do that too. I mean, like,
See, that's why I can't do this.
like
I can't
imagine
do
it.
cannibalism, man. Once I see, I mean, you're gonna have to for real chop that stuff up. I cannot distinguish it
Yeah.
as a human. Because
Yeah.
once I see it, like, I'm just gonna once I realize it, like we were saying earlier, I was saying I would be delusional and eat it. Once my delusion disappeared, I realized that what I had just done, I'm probably throwing all that back
Yeah.
up.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's gonna do me more harm than good. Like, I can't.
I don't want it to look like an ear or a finger or a foot. Don't just roast me a foot and bring it over.
You don't want a human leg?
I mean, I'm like,
Like a
yeah,
chicken leg,
like
you know,
cut it
but
into meat where you don't even see the skin or anything.
turkey leg,
It's
you
just
get a human
meat.
leg.
Well, that was great when they did that in Terminus in The Walking Dead, and they cut off Bob's leg, and you just scan over to like where they're cooking, and you just see Bob's leg on like this spigot, and they're just like roasting Bob's leg, and you see like his foot, you see everything. It's just a leg on a barbecue, and you're just like, oh shit, like.
One of
Poor
the
Bob is looking down, his
one
leg's gone. He's
one
like,
of
what the
the
fuck?
one of the Terminus guys is just finger licking good, like eating it over there, like
Oh god.
you know what? I thought you what would taste this good or something like that. I forgot what
Oh
he said.
shit. That's messed up.
You're better than I thought you'd be.
Yeah.
It's organic. He didn't realize.
Yeah, but
That's messed up.
that's just something. And even killing, like, okay, let's just diverge for 1 second away from cannibalism. Okay,
Mhm.
that is a very, very extreme thing that would have to happen, a situation and everything. It would be extreme if you had to make that decision. But let's say you're also in a survival situation. There's no food. The only food is behind the person in front of you that you have to kill because they're about to possibly kill you if you try to get their food. Maybe they won't kill you if you don't try to get their food, but you're going to starve if you don't. So fight.
Okay, is there any way for me to restrain them, take the food,
Fight.
pack it up, and get the hell out?
Fight and kill a person for their food or succumb to your
No, there's
death.
a third option, man. You get them restrained, right? Knock them out, take the food, and you hightail your ass out of there. Leave no trail. Then you don't have to kill them, right? And you get the food, and it's all good. You come sneak up behind them, right? They ain't paying attention.
Yeah, but see,
Scarlett's got this all planned out.
you don't have a PlayStation controller. You can't
That's fine. I have a rock.
You
I'm in the
can't
wilderness.
right, left,
I have
left.
a rock. I have a nice damn stick. And look, a woman knows what a frying pan is, and she knows how to use it. But hey, you need. I'll help you cook. Yeah, let me just get this. Bow, bitch! It's my food. I'm out. Pack it up. Yeah, be quick, right? You seen them girls in Yellowjackets? Man, don't get it twisted. We may not be as strong as you guys, and hand to hand combat, you're gonna kick our ass. But we sneaky as a much. You seen how sneaky fucking Lottie was with that damn axe. But she did kill the dude. I wouldn't take it that far. You just might get a little concussion.
Yeah. She took it too far and then took it too far again and then took it too far.
It's like, oh my God, Lottie.
Yeah, what the heck? So the mental state of folks matters a lot. And I guess it matters who, like I was saying, who it is. If, let's say, a guy like Kodiak was the assistant coach. He just happened to used to be a survivalist dude, but now he's, helping out at the school. Someone like that crashed with him, it would have been a whole different story, or could have been maybe.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because coach wasn't able to handle a lot of the situations himself. I mean, his leg kind of hurt him in the start to begin with, but I don't think he was really equipped himself to truly survive and help all the girls. and keep them kind of safe. But that survivalist guy, yeah, no, he's a wild card if I'd ever seen one. Kodiak,
Yeah.
yeah, he's something.
Yeah.
He's mouthy. I like him.
He might not make it past the next
He
episode.
may not actually, but I still like him. I like the mouth.
Yeah,
I like
he's in
how
a
he's
little bit of trouble.
yeah. I see why Hannah liked him. Yo, I mean, he's mouthy.
So you guys are saying you think it would be very difficult for you to resort to cannibalism.
Yes, it's like my last absolute resort, and even then, we talked about this before. It would take a very unique, very particular situation. I don't know if you want me to get into that situation again, but it's like, we get a call on the radio somehow. I don't know. We get some kind of signal. Like, say, me and Dana as far as we know, we were the last two survivors, and we're about to die, right? And it's like, all right, I love you, Dana. Wait, there's a signal. There's like a train or something, but there's only one person that can make it. Like, they only have one slot open, right? And I have to. There's no food left, but I have to make it to that location. I may fight Dana to the death for that seat of survival, and if I have to take her with me in pieces to eat to survive, because then I will make it. Like, I will actually survive. Like, there's a guaranteed survival at the end of the road. Maybe. And it was a highly crazy hypothetical. Like a damn video game or some shit.
It did sound like a game.
I don't know which one.
No, that sounds reasonable. But if it was a situation to where, like, that's it, I would turn to Scarlet and I'd rather be like, yo, this is gonna be our last day. Let's live it up.
Right?
And let's just party it up and
We destroying the whole hotel lobby.
pretty much.
We
Pretty
burn the
much.
city.
And then
I
Dana
don't know,
and
like-
then Dana whacks Scarlet over the head and said, "Not
I
me.
know, right? Like,
Not me."
Seriously, I love Dana, but I know. Look, I already know. It's cool though, because like I said, I'm ready for it. I've always got my head on a swivel, and I love Dana, and I know she loves me. But we always know what happens at the end of the road. Sometimes it gets a little hairy.
Yes.
I don't know.
does.
I don't know. I used to, when I was younger, I was into like special forces and Rambo and,
Yeah.
survival, a little bit into survival stuff. And
All he wanted was that cheeseburger.
I had my survival knife. You could unscrew it, had a compass and had like fishing wire and hooks in it and stuff in case you ever get lost out in the woods, and all this kind of stuff. So I used to think, if you'd have asked me back then, I probably would have said, heck yeah, I'll cut your leg off and eat part of it if I have to, if you're dead, Well, and probably wouldn't think twice about it or something, but I think I've become more refined.
Refined, yeah.
Over the years. I'm just, I don't think I would want to do that. As far as
you've grown since then.
Yeah. As far as eating somebody, I would just hope, like Scarlett says, of tackling the person or whatever, tying them up. I would just hope there's another option,
Yeah, right. Like, I mean, I'll do what I have to do if they come at me, right? Like, I'm all about self-preservation, but if I don't have to attack them, I'm good with that. I prefer that.
Right?
Can we find a workaround? Can we negotiate?
Yeah. And it's like the Andes flight. They had a couple of guys that said, screw this. We're walking down the mountain. We're going to try to find a way out of here. And they're the ones that, finally got out and alerted to where they were and stuff. So I would be that. I just so much think I would be that person.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think
I would have been the one with Van and them trying to untie when they went to actually go.
Yeah.
I would have done that too. Theirs was a unique situation. Yeah. I don't know if that would happen to everybody in that way.
Right.
Yes, nature is a son of a bitch and the wolves are out, but theirs was really weird situation.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm more all about the going out and trying to scavenge and find stuff. Like, it's cool if we got a home base. That's cool, but it's hard to stay in one spot for too long if you're so far away from civilization.
Yeah. So would you guys opt for something like dog food or really spoiled food or something like that over eating your friend?
I might just be, man, I'm telling you, I'm gonna starve to death in this bitch. Thank God I've already got a couple of extra pounds on me, so I got a couple extra fat reserves. It's fine. I'll make a few extra days. As long as we got water. Do we got water? Can we set up a water filtration system with some bottles and some rainwater or something?
Yep. There's a lot of methods to do that. So that, as long as we have a water source, that would be the easiest part.
Well, you got to be careful with the rivers. I just don't trust them sometimes. Rainwater's, it is what it is.
And a lot of times, I mean, unless it's some poisoned pool of water that's been stagnant for a long time or something, I mean, it would take a lot of times it would take a lot to really hurt you. I mean, you could get sick. Like if you're a city kid and you're used to a certain kind of water and you go out and drink from a river or something, could get sick. But most of the time, you wouldn't die. It would be something you could survive on if you had to for a few days.
Right.
But because it's these days, thank goodness we're not in 1846.
Well, you can filter it, right? I mean, sand, charcoal.
Yeah, if you knew.
What you make with your campfire, right?
Susceptible to like bacterias.
Straight up, campfire is one of your best friends because you get so much out of it, right? Because you do get your charcoal, which you need for various different things. And then just the fact that it does help keep away other insects and other like animals and stuff like that. It's your cooking source. I mean, boil your water. Yeah. So that even if I filtered the water, right, I still might boil it just in case a little bit.
Yeah. And hopefully you got a match or a way to start a fire.
Or you know what? I've always wondered if at least somebody has a pair of glasses or something, how accurate is the sun reflective onto something lighting it on fire? How accurate is that?
Yeah, you can do it. It is possible. A lot of times it takes more than like just a pair of eyeglasses. It would take a more like magnifying type glass. But, you could do it. In movies, you've seen people maybe do it even with just a mirror or something reflecting the sun.
I've seen them do it on Survivor.
But the idea is to get a pinpoint of light, if you can, instead of a big patch of light,
Right.
But it is possible, yeah, but it's not the best way to do it.
I was curious because, like I said, I seen them do it on Survivor one time, and I was like, man, they played. Did they actually really do that?
Yeah, they did it in The Walking Dead, or a character did, Beth, and I think she just used a mirror or something. So
how would you like? I'm just curious. It's kind of slightly divergent. What is your go-to method of starting a fire if you don't say have matches, a flint, or any like man-made starter kind of thing?
Shit, man, I've never had to.
Oh, shit. Did you just keep that in your back pocket when you go out just in case? You always have.
Yeah, I mean, but let's just say, I'm on an airplane going to a Comic-Con and it crashes in the middle of a Canadian forest, and I probably wouldn't have matches on me or anything to start a fire.
You gotta have some kind of friction or heat source of some kind to ignite.
So it would be hard.
Material.
It would be hard. I mean,
you got electrical, right? At least to get your fire started. So if you do have the plane, let's just say parts of it on the plane are still active. If you're smart enough to figure out how to get electrical current, you can start a fire with that.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. I may not know. I know in theory, maybe not fully in practice, but man, I have watched a few things.
Yeah, it's hard, and most people don't know. So it's like depends on when you get in the situation. It's depends on the situation. If it's a plane crashing up in the mountains and it's snowy, and maybe you left, like I flew from Houston. I used to live in Houston for a while, and it's always warm down there usually. So like I didn't even carry a jacket, and I flew home one time to Nashville, and it was cold as shit when I got off the plane. And I wasn't thinking about the difference in the weather and stuff, really. So if it's cold, say you weren't prepared for that, so you don't have enough coats and blankets and stuff or something, if it was a plane crash or something like that, or the stuff was destroyed.
The worst is probably anything in the cold sort of climate, like super Arctic or anything like that, or really cold. That's snowy nature. Yeah, to me, that's the hardest to survive in.
Yeah. and to get rescued a lot of times because of visibility and weather conditions to search. So it's
Yeah, that Canadian winter that those girls were stuck in, I've survived New York winters, and that scares me because I am like, I've experienced cold here in New York to where we're -5 and but what the cold those girls had to go through, n- I don't even know if I could survive it.
oh yeah. Yeah.
'Cause
And
it's crazy.
it
That
could
was crazy,
it could get
and
like
that's what it even goes to foraging. Like, you can't break the ground, so you can't even really search for bugs as like a nutrient source because the ground is so frozen that you're not even able to dig anything up. You can't go to the lake because you need something to drill through the ice to even attempt to maybe fish, and you don't know how deep the ice is going that you'd even have to dig through to be able to search maybe for fish. So even a skilled hunter in that type of situation, I don't know what they would even be able to do.
yeah, it would be tough. I mean, that's why you don't ever want to be in that situation. And if you don't have the equipment, even if you were a hunter and you're used to using a rifle and then you don't have one, are you still a hunter? You know? So it's like, what do you do then? Because most people don't know how to make traps and stuff for the most part, even if they're hunters. They know how to sit in a deer stand and hold a rifle.
Yep.
But, I was lucky enough, at least my dad, we used to make rabbit traps, rabbit gums, he called them, and he'd make them in different ways, but to trap rabbits. And he was pretty good at it. I mean, they worked really well, actually. So there are a lot of ways to do that if there's rabbits around. In the wintertime there may not be as many, but maybe there is. I don't know. That's the whole thing. It's hard to put your brain in that situation because there's so many situations you could dream up.
Right? Especially in those kind of cold climate conditions, and we're talking ones where it's like Dana's saying, the ground is frozen, the lakes are fully frozen, you don't have any tools to really be able to forage in because 'cause you're not used to that. So, yeah, that's very dangerous. You have nothing to actually nothing. I mean, it's just all ice. You're talking about trying to find something out there? I don't know if you even could.
Yeah,
'Cause, like, I know some ways to sort of survive in that, but that's why they tell you, like, in Alaskans and stuff like that, right? They actually prepare for winter in some places because you have to have your wood stacked, right, for the winter. You're not gonna go out there. You might go out there and get a little bit, but for the most part, you want your canned foods, jarred, whatever
yeah,
dried meats,
Preserved foods.
yeah,
Yeah.
everything
yeah.
for the
That's
winter. You might be
that's
able
the
to find
key.
some things, but they
That's
usually stock that stuff
yeah,
for particularly for winter. That's where, we had to used to do that kinda stuff.
yeah. If you can't migrate, I think we learned that even back in early human days. If you can't migrate away from the snow and keep getting where it's, you could hunt or collect berries or whatever, you would almost have to prepare, and that's the thing with the girls. If they, in the Yellow Jacket series, if they hadn't have found that cabin, I mean, they would have been screwed because they did make the shelters once the cabin burned down. They made those shelters, but I don't know if they were at the level of making shelters like that at the time when they needed the cabin and it was just happened to be there.
Yeah, I mean, it's very interesting. It's like, even when it comes to Yellow Jackets, you could understand what they did when it came to Jackie. But now we get to Coach, and they didn't need to eat Coach to survive, but they did. So is it now more mental than it is anything else because of the environment that they're in and what they've been through? So it's like here they had the choice at that point whether to eat him or to go and get an animal out of their pen, which they had. And they chose to eat Coach.
Yeah, and
So
Yeah.
it's definitely mental, and
Mhm.
they seem like they hated Coach because they thought the coach tried to burn the cabin down and tried to kill him. So was it partly hate that made them want to eat another human when they had other options? Was it part of their little new religion that they seem to now have
Yeah.
about themselves? Or Is there another way to explain it? I mean, I don't know.
Yeah. To me, it came off as not so much they ate Coach in order to survive. It was part of the way that they're changing their rituals and kind of creating a society. And part of that was, honoring their dead, right? And then giving back to the wilderness. And how did they do that? Well, it kind of started out with them, with Jackie and all these other ones, as they've been forming this weird, I don't know what to call it. I don't call it a religion, but it is in a way because almost like a pagan religion, right? It's very weird. It's not necessarily religion in the way we think of like Christianity or something like that. It's kind of more paganism. It's more ritualistic.
Yeah.
And that's what I think is what they were doing. It wasn't so much about, oh, we have to eat him because we're starving. It was more like, oh, Coach was supposed to be their way home. And so when Nat killed him, it kind of freaked everybody out. Nat was in a state of, just pure shock of what she felt like she had to do to save Coach. Because again, what kind of life was Coach going to live? So it was like this domino effect, right? When you watch that episode. So it's I don't know, it's hard to say, but I think it's just a weird situation that they put themselves in with Coach. I don't know. It's just weird. They just I don't know. It's a weird one to explain.
Yeah, it was uncalled for, no matter how you look at it, as far as they're a little past whatever point you would say, look, I can
Mhm.
forgive you for Jackie, but I don't know if I can forgive you for Coach.
No, it's unforgivable. It's just more like that is how their um, kind of mental state is where they're kind of like, oh, this is how we're justifying things. We're doing this because we're honoring our dead and we're giving back to the wilderness. The wilderness provides, so we got to. This is, I guess, in a way, a sacrifice to the wilderness, whether they chose it as the group or not. And it's weird because, again, the whole show, when it comes to that aspect of it, is hard to wrap your mind around and sort of explain. 'Cause you're not justifying, right? You're just sort of explaining the psychology behind their decision making. But it's really far out there to try to, like, comprehend and even put yourself in that situation and think, "Well, what the fuck how did we get here?" Right? Like, how did they get to that moment?
Yeah. And so do you think if you were in that situation, if it was, and say it was an airplane of strangers, not a soccer team that knew everybody. Let's say it's an airplane of strangers and you're on it and you're trying to survive in the wilderness and you have a friend, Sarah or whoever that's with you. Let's say stranger dies is one that dies. Bill dies. You don't know Bill. And the cannibalism thing option comes up because you guys are starving. Or let's say, what if it was Sarah that had died? Would having a choice to eat Bill or Sarah affect you whatsoever because you know Sarah versus you don't know Bill? Maybe you might have eat a little bit of Bill, but you just can't eat Sarah.
Well, yeah, I imagine if I know the person, it's gonna make it that much harder to want the harder I'm not gonna wanna eat anybody to begin with, but I guess if we're at that point, yeah, I would probably prefer to eat the person I don't know. Like, the less attachment I have to something, the easier I would think it would be, you know, I would think. I don't know. It's a hard one to consider because I don't wanna eat anybody. Again, I'm all for the 3rd option here, James.
Die.
No, no, I'm scavenging my ass off. Look, well, I'll find something. There's gonna be, like, some plant out there that, is native to the land.
I mean, some
I'll
tree
figure it out.
bark and dirt and
No, I ain't eat no tree bark or dirt. No, but there are plants that you can eat even, I'm sure, somewhere. There's gotta look, there's something out there living. It don't spring out of nowhere.
yeah, especially if
I
there's
for me
water.
personally, yeah, for me personally, I would hope that it would definitely have to be a last resort type of situation. I would hope that you're talking about, okay, I have exalted all my options. I've tried to forage, I've tried to hunt, I've tried to do, but now I'm to the point to where if I don't eat something, it death is the only thing that's going to happen next. I would hope that that would be the scenario. And like Scarlett said, I think it would be easier to possibly do it with somebody who you had no connection to, no memories, no past, no friendship, because now you don't have those things weighing on your mind as you're weighing that decision. So it might ease the situation more, but I I personally can't say whether I would or I wouldn't because none of us have been in that situation, but I would just hope for my own sanity that it would literally have to be my last resort. Like I will die tomorrow unless I put, Bill on the barbecue.
That's
So
the point
so
when I tell Dana, "I love you. You take care of Bill. I'm out because I know I'm next after Bill. So I'm packing a bag. Imma go get rescue. You stay here, take care of Bill. I'll be back. I'll send rescue. And I love you, Dana. You got this, girl. Here, we got a walkie-talkie or something? God, I hope. Imma call you on, like, a CBS radio or some shit. Are you still alive? I made it. I'm about, like, 4 miles or so. Like, I found a can of food. Are you okay?
Yeah, it
I
would have
found
to.
a random, like, banana tree. It's got bananas. And did you know
Uh-huh.
you can, like can't you drink, like, if you cut open the banana, like, can't you drink, like, the liquid or something of the banana?
Bananas have
I
liquid in
think
them?
that's a I think that's a
No,
coconut.
the plant itself, or is it just the coconut one?
Maybe coconut?
Might be I know the palm one, I think you can. Not like palm tree, but there's like a
I know you could do that with cactus. I knew that
oh, yeah,
they
cactuses you could pretty much eat.
It would just have to be I mean, there's a lot of situations that might come up where you have to suddenly go into survival mode. I mean, even in today's time, with everything available, even with the research, the rescue options that, helicopters and very, very trained individuals that would come get you, and stuff. So there's, whether your
Is there
sail
bamboo around?
your sail breaks and you're out at sea. I mean, that's pretty dangerous, but still, you have a good chance of getting rescued. Your dune buggy breaks down in the middle of the desert. You got a pretty good chance of getting rescued if somebody knows you're missing and cares about you. So that's one of the biggest things. If you ever think you're going to be in a survival situation where you're stranded somewhere, just hope you have a loved one. That's the
Right?
best insurance you could have. Someone cares enough to come looking for you.
Me and Dana gonna survive on bamboo shoots
Daryl
and
Dixon
fish.
in The Walking Dead, he was telling a story about when he was little. He had a pretty shitty upbringing and parents, and a dad that was a alcoholic that didn't care, and his mom had already died, I think, at this point. And he said he went and got lost in the woods for I think he said maybe 7 days or 11 days or something like that.
It was something like that, yeah.
And he survived, and so he said he finally made it back home and just walked in the kitchen and started making a sandwich, and his dad was so drunk the whole time, never even knew he was gone. So it's like, if you don't have anybody that cares about you, you may not have anybody looking for you.
Yeah, but then also look at what the girls in the Yellowjackets also went through. They with their plane crashing thousands of miles off course from where they were. Yes, they all had family members, but they didn't even know where to begin to look.
Yeah, and that sucks for them, man.
Yeah, Misty.
That's just bad luck. And Misty's little
Yeah,
They may have been found, actually. We don't
words
know.
words I can't say on
possibly,
YouTube.
possibly.
But that's a pretty crazy
But we
show,
will
and
give the benefit to that they were lost off
yeah,
course. Even though you have loved ones looking for you, if they don't even know where to start to
yeah,
look.
and that's what I'm saying. I mean, it's still that would be a freak accident to even the plane flying over the mountains. They knew where that plane was. I mean, going and coming from. It was just, the weather and such, and the exact place it crashed up in the mountains. It was just, they hadn't really stopped, I don't think, looking. It's just they hadn't found them yet, and conditions didn't allow them to find them yet. So it's just hard. I guess I'm thankful anyway that we're not in 1876 and we're in such a time where it would be, I mean, it would have to be a really crazy, crazy situation, right? To get into the point
Yeah.
where you had to eat somebody. I mean, come on, that would almost have to be like a Saw movie or something. Somebody captures you and makes you like eat it.
Right?
Shauna.
I was just gonna say
You know what?
Shauna
Misty
sends
had
her
it
blessings.
coming.
Melissa,
Yeah, Melissa. Misty's got it coming too. All of them. You know what? They're all Misty. When they find out what Misty did, she got it coming too. And Melissa.
but it
The
is
only
a
one that's safe is Van.
yeah, seems like anyway. But it's a crazy show. It makes you think about a lot of things, and that's one of the reasons I love The Walking Dead, and I think a lot of other people do as well, is because so many different situations that people are put in, the characters are put in, that makes you, you know, like if you're sitting on the couch and you have your girlfriend or wife or friend or whoever sitting beside you, and you're watching the show, it makes you go, what would you do in that situation? You know, it just makes you ask that question, not just to yourself, but to other people even. What would you do in that situation? And the cannibal thing is a big one. They touched on it in The Walking Dead. The Yellowjackets thing really, I think, makes you ask that question even more than like a show like The Walking Dead as far as cannibalism, because it's a big center stage topic in that show, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
It's definitely one, if anybody's out there that hasn't watched Yellowjackets, if you're into cannibalism, that's your show. Right.
But it's just the subject itself is such a touchy subject because it's not saying it's a situation that you can talk about, but until you're in it, you really don't know what you would do. So it's just a topic that you hope you would do the right thing in.
Yeah. It'd be
Right.
like, it'd be like, man, I'm going to have to eat human flesh. Good thing I brought these matches, survival matches, and barbecue sauce.
Right. Because it's like, because
Brought
even
some
if you get to
seasonings.
the point of doing it, right? Like for me, it's not just about the act itself, it's the after. Like, I'm not going to forget that. That doesn't
Yeah.
leave you, you know, and yeah, I understand everybody's like, oh, you got to do what you got to do. But then, you know, there's more sides to it than, okay, just you did it. If you did survive, then what? What are you after that point?
What if you took that first bite though and you were like, man, this is pretty good.
Right. So again,
God.
that's what I'm saying. Like, what kind of person are you now? Did you enjoy it? Were you disgusted at yourself? How are you going to like live with yourself? Some people maybe live with themselves very well. I mean, you know, that's what I'm saying. Like, there's a lot of psychology behind it, man, because you already jacked up in the head if you had to get to the point of eating somebody. I just don't know how you come back from that. Like, I feel like once I went to that point, I kind of feel Lottie and them. I don't know if I want to go back to civilization because then I don't know if I could like, I don't know.
Look people in the eye kind
Like,
of
'cause
thing.
seriously, because then like people are going to try to test you and be like rude to you and stuff on the streets. And knowing what you know about yourself, you're just like, man, these people just don't know.
I
Kind of like Shauna, like
you.
they just don't know. Like Shauna be ready to take people out all the time. They don't understand. She's been through things.
And she's, you know, Shauna did say, I'm just going to go set her down and talk to her. And she did. So
Have a nice conversation.
if Melissa hadn't invoked it,
Exactly. She had to go grabbing at the knife. Everything was chill. They both had their own weapon. They were at the table, like peace treaty kind of thing. They were having talks. She brought her water. It would have been very nice of Melissa to set the water down after Melissa done stalked Shauna. You know, no, she had to go grabbing the knife and trying to kill her. So, you know, it is what it is. Peace treaty did not, or peace talks did not go very well at that table.
it is a crazy show.
Switzerland blew up.
Yeah.
She told her to eat it.
Yeah, I've been waiting to see if something pops up with Weird Al Yankovic's song and that scene, you know, together. I haven't seen it yet, but I bet it's out there somewhere.
You should do it.
Somebody's going to do it.
But all right. So it's been about an hour. We'll wrap this one up. talking about cannibalism. I know, I'm so sorry. I know you guys want to talk about it so much further and into much more
I
detail.
did. Look, I wanted to, there's a whole, I got my notebook here full of like psychology notes, survival tips, so you don't have to be a cannibal.
Oh, see, you need to keep that with you at all times just in case that
I do.
situation arises.
Yeah, I take it, I put it in my purse along with my bear spray and little like mini taser. Because the taser can light a fire too.
Oh, yeah? Nice.
And it's defensive. It's electrical. I actually have a lighter that's one of them electrical lights, like a taser. When you
Wow.
zap it, it sounds like a taser.
Uh-huh.
And I like candle stuff with it.
Nice. Nice. Yeah, they got too much, I do some videos on my channel about survival type topics, and preparedness is a key to it all, really, is to be prepared. And it's like we were talking about, you either save nuts and berries, in the summer for winter, or you're not going to eat. So you got to prepare, and having something to start a fire with or something like that, preparedness is a big thing. And I think we're in a world today where we can get all those little gadgets. Like somebody in 1876 probably knew how to start a fire a lot easier than we do right now. Maybe.
Oh, they rub those two sticks together with velocity, and then woof.
There's just too much, especially like to keep a little kid of something in your car, or, if you're going out camping or something, that's when you really need to have it on you. For sure,
See, that's why in the 90s we had people smoke cigarettes a lot, and we all had the little cigarette lighter thingy in there, and it came. And you could look, you could do stuff with it, man. I saw it on was it a Goofy movie? He heated up canned soup.
There you go.
I don't know how legit that was, but
there you go.
And
at least you're not eating your friend. You have a can of soup, so that's good, right?
And it's heated. It's warm. It's comfort, right? I get comfort points. It goes a long way in survival.
Yeah, and I always, one thing, like I say, I do love The Walking Dead, but one thing that is just wrong about it, if you watch the show, is at one point they can't find food or anything. They're scavenging all over the place and they can't find anything. Or bullets at one point. There's so many bullets in the South United States. I mean, you're never going to run out, especially if people are dying, and there's only a handful of people left. There's plenty of bullets, and there's really plenty of food, I would think, because especially, if a bunch of people had died and there's just stuff left over in a place like Nashville, but I've since moved to a more rural area, and even if a bunch of people died in the county, people around here have very full pantries. It's just, I don't know. I just don't see it being like The Walking Dead. If you're listening out there and you're a fan of The Walking Dead, I don't think if we had an apocalypse, like resources would just go to zero, that fast.
I agree.
No, I agree.
I definitely agree.
In particular, the way people are nowadays, and I can't speak for like all around the world, but I know like in the United States, there's a lot of channels and stuff that pop up, people who have some sort of like survival, like they're living off the grid or something like that, where they're already kind of prepping for if something were to happen. So you've already got people who are prepping resources in places. So if you know how to scavenge, you know how to look, like you said, people start dwindling. They didn't go through their resources, but it's still there. If you know how to find them, you know how to get in these places, then you might be able to survive yourself. Not to mention if you just know a little bit about the land and where you're at. As long as we're not talking nuclear or anything like that, fallout where the land is completely destroyed as well, then your chances are even higher.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And like we say, hopefully nothing like that happens. A lot of people, one thing about the nuclear, there was a thing in Fear the Walking Dead that a bomb went off in Texas, several actually, and people were asking me on the channel, the main show was in Virginia, happening in Virginia. So they're like, why didn't they feel that? Or why didn't they see that or know about that in Virginia? And a lot of people, I guess, think that the bombs are much bigger than what they actually are. But, there could be a lot of devastation with nuclear. You just have to move away from wherever that is. There should be a better place just off to the side of that per se, you know?
Right. As long as
So
we didn't like blanket
yeah,
the
yeah.
world, you should be able to find as long as you're not in the
Blast,
vicinity of
yeah,
it, then
blast
your
zone and
chances are
stuff.
pretty good.
Yeah, and
But
it's
now they also have the pills, right? Just in case. I've seen those
yeah,
on some of the prepper things that are
yeah,
supposed to help, and a lot of people are buying
Well,
those up right now.
there was actually a TV show. I don't know if you guys ever watched it or heard of it. It was called Jericho, and it lasted a couple of seasons because it came out right around like 9/11 during that time. So, and it was a TV show where there was an attack on America and a bunch of nuclear bombs went off. But the way they did the map is they figured for where all the radiation was going to go. And there was this one place, Jericho, I forget what state it was in, but it was like out of the range of all of the fallout. So there is, and you're talking about all the major cities were hit, New York,
yeah,
Washington, so it was like all, and, but there was this one town that was like literally in like the Goldilocks zone of it, none of the fallout would have hit. So I would assume that there will be pockets if of that, if because it doesn't reach the way people think. So I would think that there would be a place that you could go and still survive like a nuclear type of event.
yeah.
And if you haven't seen Jericho, check it out. It's actually really
I
good.
have to check it out. The That's the whole thing, when you look at the chances of stuff happening, you know, there's all kinds of statistics. You have a better chance of a pencil jumping up and killing you than a lot of this stuff that we're talking about even happening. So it's like the odds of it happening are very out there, but out of everything, even a plane crash in the top of the mountains in the middle of winter, it seems like a possible future war where they did launch nuclear weapons is the most likely possible thing that could happen in a mass survival thing, aside from something like a COVID type disease or virus or something that could happen.
Or
However,
even more way out there, some sort of natural disaster created by people unnamed
right.
that causes, widespread internet failure, power failure, something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. And, there's still possibilities. There's still crazy people in the world that could cause stuff to happen. There's natural, a asteroid hits the earth or something. There's still all these possibilities, but it's even with all of those, it's hard to see where cannibalism would
Right.
come into play.
Yeah.
So let's hope it never happens. You have to eat your friend.
I don't want to. Like I said, you already know me, James. I'm all for the whatever other option we have to scavenge and survive. Don't tell me that no, we're gonna die. If we don't know, we'll figure it out. We're not eating each other. We
Yeah.
might just have to die, but I'd rather die trying to find food than survive eating my friend.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And I've back in my early days, I watched Star Trek and stuff, and Captain Kirk, one of his sayings is he doesn't believe in no-win situation. So he's always looking for that other option. And that's kind of something I've always thought about in situations like this. Like, there's got to be another option, there's got to be another option. There's got to be another option. And so most of the time there should be, even in the Yellowjackets show, you could almost say there were other options every time. But it's crazy to talk about the cannibalism thing. And I think I might have to do a video at some point on my channel of the Donner Party, because that is the most gruesome real life story, even more so than the airplane thing. Because there was, the airplane thing, the person died and they just said, well, he's already dead. Let's eat a little part of the back of his leg or his butt or whatever they ate, right? But in the Donner Party, there was murder, and a lot of other stuff that went on but in the human condition. And it's a good story about the human condition of what do you do when you get to the point of starvation, and you go crazy or the bad person comes out,
Mm-hmm. No, I get it. It's wild to think about.
It's definitely scary. It's definitely scary.
But, hopefully that nothing like that whatsoever, and not even cannibalism. Just, I know there's a lot of crazy shit going on in the world, and there's people displaced and in high distress, because of where they live or, whatever circumstances. So it's definitely not a day in the park for everybody, but I've been really blessed and don't have to hopefully worry about going days with no food, even though if I don't start doing better videos and people start watching more videos and, clicking on videos.
You got to survive on ramen noodles, man. I'm telling you.
But, it's just one of those situations where hopefully, that's just not going to be a situation. Yeah. But we'll wrap this one up. Thank you guys, Dana, Scarlet, so very much. And I just want to say it's a pleasure having met you guys and talking the shows with you over on your channel and stuff. So look forward to much more of that.
Oh, yeah. It's been a pleasure, man. Always. Thank you for letting us join you.
Yeah. And this is the More Dead Stuff. I need to start adding more stuff to this side of the channel. I've kind of neglected it a little bit, but I've been collecting stuff, scripts and things to do some videos on. So hope you guys enjoyed this one about cannibalism. This is Dana, guest Dana and Scarlet. Like I say, the links are down in the description below. Definitely check out their channels and hit them up and say hello that you heard about them from James. And this is James. And you guys, let me know what you think about the cannibalism thing, if you would eat your friend or not, that kind of thing, down in the comments below, and I'll join you there. So this is James. Stay tuned for more dead stuff.